Could you please tell me of your movements this morning?
I had breakfast shortly after 9, say 10 past. Then I collected my book, spoke with you in the lobby briefly, and went to read at the Ledgers. That must have been about 25 past 10. I came back to the hotel about 10 minutes to 12, got my tennis racket and played until about 1.
From about 10:30 until 20 minutes of 12, you were at the Ledges and never left there during that time?
Not entirely. At about 11, I went back to my room to fetch my sun hat. I saw Kenneth Marshall typing in his room.
Indeed? From the hall, perhaps? Or the balcony?
The hall. His door was slightly ajar.
Did you see Madame Marshall this morning?
No.
You did not see her as she paddled her float round to Cutter's Cove?
No, she must have gone before I got there.
Did you see anyone at all on a float or in a boat?
At the Ledgers? Possibly Mr. Blatt. At least I think it was his boat. It had a white sail, though.
You didn't see Monsieur Redfern and Mademoiselle Brewster when they rode past?
No, I don't think I did. You see, I was reading, only glancing up occasionally.
Did anyone pass you on the path?
I was on the lower ledge. Unless someone had called out to me, I doubt I would have noticed them.
You were, I think, acquainted with Captain Marshall?
He is an old family friend. We grew up next door to one another, although I had not seen him for a good many years. It must be nearly 12.
Were the Marshalls on good terms with one another?
On perfectly good terms, I should say.
Monsieur Marshall, he was very devoted to his wife?
Ken, Mr. Marshall, is rather old-fashioned. He hasn't got the modern habit of shouting matrimonial woes upon the housetop.
Did you like Madame Marshall?
No.
Why was that?
She was bored to death with women and showed it. On the other hand, men were a very different story.
Do you think her husband was aware of her interests in that line?
I think that he accepted his wife quite frankly for what she was. He had no illusions about her, but I could be wrong.
Do you know of anyone with a grudge against Madame Marshall?
Only wives, but since she was strangled, I presume that it was a man who killed her.
Mademoiselle, may I ask a favor of you?
You found my typewriter, Monsieur Poirot. I am in your debt.
What would you have me ask, Hastings? Could you compare some pieces of fabric for me?
I would be happy to. Fabric is something I know quite a bit about.
Merci. The perfect favor to ask. You are learning to exercise their little grey cells with great skill. It would seem the obvious request.
This cut piece is fine silk. From a lady's hat, I would say. The torn bit is rayon, inexpertly dyed. And this burnt piece is from the same rayon as the torn fabric.
Many thanks, mademoiselle. I thank you for your cooperation.
A rather touching photograph. Mrs. Redfern's sketching supplies.
You were right, Monsieur Poirot, weren't you?
Madame?
You asked me to have patience, and now Arlena has been removed from the picture.
Perhaps. But the manner of her removal is not something to celebrate, I think.
Oh, I'm not celebrating, I'm not that callous. But I do know that eventually that door will open, and it will be my husband standing there.
If you could give me an account of your movements this morning?
Of course. Let me see. On my way down to breakfast, I stopped in to see Linda Marshall and fixed up with her to go to Sanctuary Cove. That was about 9:40. After breakfast, I saw you in the lobby. I sketched that man for you at about 10:20.
Again? My thanks.
Then Linda and I set out for Sanctuary Cove.
What time was that?
I think it was just on 10:30.
What did you do at Sanctuary Cove?
I made some sketches of the birds, while Linda swam and sunbathed. Have you seen them walk, Monsieur Poirot? It quite reminded me.
Ha! We will not dwell upon the birds, madame, if you don't mind.
As you wish.
What time did you leave?
At 11:45. I was playing tennis at 12 with Miss Darnley, Mr. Marshall and Mr. Gardner.
How did you know the time?
Linda had a watch. I asked her.
I see. And then?
I packed up my sketching things and went back to the hotel.
What was Mademoiselle Linda doing when you left the beach?
Oh, Linda went into the sea again.
Did Linda Marshall actually enter the sea before you left the beach?
Yes. Oh, yes, she ran down the beach. I heard her splashing in the waves as I climbed the path.
What happened after you went back to the hotel?
I changed into my tennis things and went to the tennis court where I met the others. We played 2 sets and were just going in when the news came about Mrs. Marshall.
How did you feel when you learned of Madame Marshall?
It was a horrible thing to happen.
Yes, but you were so very surprised?
I think I see what you mean. No, I was not perhaps surprised. Shocked, yes, but she was the kind of woman.
She was the kind of woman to whom such a thing might happen. Yes, madame, that is the truest and most significant thing that has been said to Poirot today. Latched tight on the inside.
This room belongs to Mr. Blatt.
Fascinating.
I say, what caused that oily spot?
My nose tells me it is some kind of oil. A test would determine it more precisely. That will do quite well.
Interesting. I'll put it in my notebook. This document bears further study. I will keep it in my notebook. This may be important. I'll keep it in my notebook.